Hi, I'm Jim and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop, and back on this 33-inch snapper, let me move you over here a little bit. I forgot to put a few things on that I think really need to be shown. One is the brake arm, brake lever, whatever you want to call it, for the chain case that goes on the chain case. The other is the left and right bracket that holds up the mower deck, the back side. You really should put these on before you put the tires on, but I did put the right side on and I just worked behind the tire. It's not a big deal. And this, if you know what this is the old style spring that goes on the brake arm that keeps it from rattling. There's no other reason I can think of they put that on there, except there was people complaining. I couldn't hear it when the engine's running, but there was people complaining there was a rattle in the back of their machine, and I guess they traced it down to that little brake arm. So what we're gonna do first is we're going to put this bracket on. I've already got the lug bolts out of the tire. We're going to set that over there. And we have to take out the upper corner bolt in the fender. And we have to take out the top bolt in this cross member going across the machine. Let me move this tire out of here. We got to take the top bolt out of this cross member. And you need a socket and a wrench because it's not a standard bolt like most of them. It's a bolt and nut through a loose hole. And I don't know if it's not a self-locking nut. And this thing sticks up this way. You use this hole and this hole. And let's stick this one in. We'll let that swing down a little. And I'll put this nut on here. And we'll put this top bolt back in. That's all there is to putting that on. And we'll tighten this up. And we can put the tire back on. These are always a handful to get at least the first bolt in. After that, it's not too bad. I gotta get this thing down on the floor tonight because the box came from Paul in Arkansas that sent me the entire rear drivetrain of his machine. And we'll be doing that online. That'll be the next video. Probably tomorrow I'll get to it. That we're going to take it out of the box, see what all is in there. I believe he said he was sending both fenders and everything. He was just going to pull this out in one unit and stick it in a box. obviously he's not going to send the tires. Now, this chain case. I don't know where we can turn this, where you can see. We have to take off the clutch disc assembly. I had the table down quite low tonight because I've got the upper part of the machine together, and if I go any higher with it, it's gonna knock my light down. Sounds like my furnace is getting ready to kick on. Another thing I do is I usually use this heavy glove to keep from cutting my hands on the edge of this clutch assembly. It would work better if I put it over in 5th gear. And just pull the assembly off. Now you want to put the brake lever on. The bolt has to go through from this side, sticking out into the air over here, because you don't want the bolt link sticking out and the nut is going to rub on the inside of your clutch disc assembly. And all this consists of is a 1/4 28 nut, a little piece of tubing, and a standard bolt. They use the tubing because I don't want to buy shoulder bolts. Shoulder bolts are very expensive. And you use that piece of tubing, you want to make sure that the piece of tubing you have sticks out farther than the thickness of the brake arm. Otherwise, it's going to bind up and this won't turn freely. So we want to stick this in here. The bolt goes through this side. Get my nut on there. This is a self-locking nut. You're going to need a wrench. These are both 7/16. Nut must be wore out a little bit because it doesn't really want to start ratcheting. There we go. And you want to snug this right up. You don't want it to be loose. And this will remain free. Now the brake, this little brake spring. I got another chain case over here to show you a little bit easier how this thing goes together. Because it's going to be hard to see back inside of here. But this is the same chain case that's in there. They don't really have a name for this other than this is a chain case. This part I call the tail. This is the pin that's welded on. And they've had in the past a lot of trouble, especially with the machines I call turtles, this breaking off. They did a terrible job welding them. And I've talked to a couple of dealers, and he said back when they had them and they sold them, he said when we get a shipment of them in, the first thing we do, we have an area welder come in with a small unit like mine that's portable. They stand all these up, and he goes right down the line and re-welds all these to make sure they don't break off. But to get this spring on here so it doesn't rattle on you, this is the old style. I have a video that shows how to put this one on and the new style spring. That hooks in and wraps around this bolt and hooks back here on the side of the brake arm. Okay, now the bottom edge of the chain case where the chain is on the inside, then there's this little hole right here. You can see a little hole there. First thing you do is stick the brake down in the hole on the brake arm. This little spring goes down in that hole and you turn it backwards so it's locked in there. Then it goes down, this is a handful, it goes down underneath this area and you push forward on it and it pops into, if you got enough fingers, pops into that hole. Then you push back on it and snap it in underneath here. And mine come out of the hole. It's hard to get this out of here once you get it in. And it snaps in there like that. And then that's your spring. Now, it can be a handful to get this back out of here. So now we'll snap it in this one. You're probably not going to be able to see a thing. That's why I dug that one out. We're going to put this in reverse. So I got a little room to work. You can try to see what I'm doing, I guess. I think I don't know. Let me drop this down a little. Maybe that'll help. Put it down in that hole, swing it down, put the other end in the other hole, and push back on it. Once it snaps in there and the spring gets tucked into this corner right here, it is not coming out. That's the old style spring. Now, when you go to put your clutch disc assembly on, keep your eye on this key. Sometimes if they fit real loose, when you slide this on and bump the end, it will rotate out of the hole. And then when you put the nut on and lock it down, it will lock up your drivetrain and it won't work. Just wiggle it on there, keep your eye on it. Don't forget to put your lock washer on. And the nut. And these are self-locking again. Now, one other part I forgot to put on is this spring. This is for the yoke. And you put it in, you know, it'll almost be easier to see with this thing laying down because the engine's not in the way. And we can look through that hole. I don't know if we can. Yeah, it's going to be easier laying it down. So I will be back in a minute. Okay, this is what they call your slide bracket right here. This is where your spring goes to adjust the tension to drive this machine. Mine has 5 holes. It has none on the back because it doesn't hook like the other machines do. This hooks in a different place. I'm going to use the 4th hole up from the back of the machine. That'll give me 1 more hole for adjustment. And this crooked end of the spring, if I can do it from down here, goes in that 4th hole. Then you bend it around and it's hooked in there. Now where it comes out of the back of the machine, which messes up a lot of people because they don't know that's where it goes. It comes out of this slot with the little hole underneath of it. And it's pretty easy to put it in there. You can do it without pliers. You stick the end of the spring, the hooked end, through the hole, slide it down, or I should say through the slot. Slide it down and put the end of the spring in that hole. And that's all there is to it. Try to lift up this camera. And that's all there is to putting that on. You do have to do it standing up because most of the time you're going to have an engine in the way. But seeing the engine wasn't in the way, it's a lot easier to show you where it goes than to show you how to put it in when it's standing up. It's pretty simple, really. Now, the next video that's coming, I took my tire down to my tire dealer to get the correct tube for it. And he said, yeah, we can have that done for you in a couple days. I said, well, I just need the tube and I can put it in. He said, no. He says, we'll do it, won't charge you anything for it. Probably because I use him pretty much exclusively for all the tires on my cars, all the repairs. Now they charge, I took it down and had one of my tires taking a nail out of it and they patched it. It's 20 bucks. You go to discount, they do it for free. The last time I took a tire to discount, it was off my wife's car, which was about 2 weeks before when I took mine down to Smith's Tire. It leaked faster when discount got done with it than it did before when I had the nail in. So I took that down there. They looked it over and said when discount tore it down, they never cleaned the rim where the bead seals. It had a bead leak. They cleaned it up. They use a wire brush on a drill motor. They clean it up. It's fine. So when I had a nail in my truck tires, when I took my snows off, took it down to Smith's, 20 bucks. I stood there and waited for it, in and out of there in 20 minutes. And you know what? It don't leak. So he said, Jim, we'll put the tube in there, no charge. So I imagine the tube's going to be about 7 bucks. And I'll get a hold of that and get that in there. Now, the next thing we're going to do, let me move this camera back. I'm going to have to go out in my storage garage and get a front tire so I can throw it on here in the morning and get this out of my way. this is what we got next. It's a pretty good sized box. It weighs 57 pounds. It's from Paul in Arkansas. This is not the one coming from Idaho. Excuse me, Idaho. Apparently I got one more coming than I thought. Tomorrow we're going to get this up there, open it up, and see what I actually have in here. And that'll be the next series of videos, is repairing this. I might squeeze in a few on the 33 inch. I'm not sure. I might just knock this thing out and get it back to them. So that's it for this video. I just want to let you know to work safe, have fun, and keep on snapping. We'll talk to you soon. So long.